Hello everyone, it's Sush and today we are going to talk about this book, Frankenstein. I think many people have heard about this book because of that movie too. So when you think about Frankenstein, what comes to your mind? A green monster who have stitches on his forehead and poles in his neck? Probably something like this. But you're wrong. We all are wrong. He's not Frankenstein. He doesn't even have it. Once you read this book, you realize something even more strange, that Frankenstein is not a horror novel, it's a tragedy. This story is about loneliness, obsession, and terrible consequences of playing God. So today I'm going to tell you the story of Frankenstein, not the story that movies has taught us, but a story that was written by an 18-year-old woman, Mary Shelley. This story begins in frozen Arctic. An explorer, Robert Walton, he dreams of becoming the first man to reach to the places that no one have ever reached. He writes letters to his sister describing the landscape, the outstretching lands of ice and ice, the ice blocks. But something impossible happened. His crew notices something, or rather someone, which is baffling because this Arctic is very cold place and there to find someone, it's like impossible. And his name was Victor Frankenstein. And that's where our true story begins. Victor Frankenstein was born in loving and caring and rich family in Geneva. Unlike most children, Victor Frankenstein dared to ask questions that no one can ever utter, which were who created life? Why can't we create life? Can we create life from death? And death we defeated. And that boy spent all of his time reading books of philosophers and alchemist and thinking that maybe he will find something and maybe he will discover something that the science hadn't discovered. But these all books were rejected by other people by just saying that they were dreamers. They had nothing useful to gain from. When Victor was older, he went to Germany to study science, and he met brilliant professors who introduced him to the modern science, chemistry, biology, anatomy. The more he read, the more obsessed he becomes. The more obsessed he becomes with life, and instead of asking how life worked, he started questioning that if I can defeat the death or if I can create the life. His curiosity turned into obsession. He stopped talking to his friends, he ignored his family, and then he stopped going home too. He spent all of his time in laboratories. Locked himself in laboratory, he visited graves, dissecting rooms in hospitals, and months turned into years, and he wasn't building a life. He was conquering the death. Victor did what no one can ever do in history. Victor created a life out of body parts, and the moment that creature opened its yellow dull eyes, what Victor saw was not a miracle, not something that God has gifted him. He saw terror, he saw horror, and he saw a nightmare. By what he had created, he just runs away. He ran away and leaving the creature whole alone. Imagine being born in a world for first time, opening your eyes and seeing the creator that had made you, fleeting with horror. The creature knew nothing, he couldn't speak, he didn't even know language. He was all alone in this strange world that he was born in without his consent. But the hunger tormented him. The cold hurted him. The sun was the only solace in his life. People screamed at the sight of him. Everybody threw stones at him, and some they were so scared that they ran away. All of this, he couldn't understand that why everyone was hating him. What's wrong with him that he is being rejected by literally every single person? Eventually, wandering here and there, he eventually found a shelter and he saw a cottage and he saw a family. He observed how they smile and how they cry, and you know what, he realized at that point one thing, that he can never ever have a family or someone that he loves. Without anyone teaching, he learned the language. He read books, he read history, he read philosophy, he read humanity, and he read morality. So he read, and the more he read and the more he tried to get into this kind of things, he realized one thing, and that is he can never have a family, he can never have someone he cares for, he can never have a companion. At night when the family slept, he gathered firewood for them. Maybe for a moment he believed that the kindness would be enough. There lived three people, one old man who is blind, a girl and a boy, and that old father. And afternoon, the blind father was alone, and the creature decided to reach him. And for the first time in his life, someone spoke to him. Someone spoke to him gently, without screaming at him, without shouting in horror and running away in another direction. Because the father couldn't see his obedience, and for the first time, someone listened to his thing. For a fleeting moment, the creature believes that maybe Maybe his loneliness was over. Maybe he found someone. Maybe the father would accept him, and then he will convince his daughters and son that, you know what, accept him because he is kind. He's not the monster that everyone portrays him to be. But the rest of the family returned home and they saw him. And what they saw was truly horrifying. They beat him with sticks because they saw that the monster was attacking their father, him out of cottage, and he ran back where he was, and he was heartbroken, and his loneliness, it turned into anger. He wasn't born evil, he was not evil, but he became something what society accepted of him. That's why his loneliness turned into bitterness. That's why he promised himself that he will find that man who created him. And that's why he followed Victor Frankenstein. He followed him, and then when he found him finally, he wasn't angry. He didn't attack him. But what he did was he told a story of himself, story of loneliness, story of how bitter he felt in a world where no one is his. And he is rejected by everyone. Every society. The society despises him. That's why the only thing that creature did was to make a single request. All I want is for you to create someone like me, someone who isn't afraid of how I look. But Victor, he hesitated. That at first he agreed that, okay, if I create another one like him, then maybe he will leave me and leave everyone. He had gone to a remote island, and then he started working, and then he started working on his creature. Then he started working on this second monster that he was creating. But you know what? There was one thought that was bugging him all the time. What if this new creature that he's making, what if they both destroyed the humanity? What if this creature rejected that creature too? What ifs? That was consuming him. Before even completing the whole thing, Victor ran away again. He was like, he can't do that again. And the creature saw everything. And he was furious. He was sad, he was filled with grief because he only asked for one thing, and that was to create someone like me, and that even his creator was unable to fill. That's why he said only one thing, and that was, I shall see you at your wedding night. Victor thought that maybe this threat was aimed at him, maybe he would be one who died, but he was wrong. On his wedding night, the one that threat was for Elizabeth. He stole the only person that he loved. This didn't end here. His friend Henry, he was murdered as well. His father, consumed by grief, he died too. Victor had finally lost everything, and now the Victor and the monster, they both were alone in this whole world. The man who once dreamed of conquering the death now brought nothing but death upon everyone around him. Consumed by the grief and rage, Victor Frankenstein, he chased the creature across the Europe, and they both finally found each other, and that was in the frozen Arctic. And Victor pushed himself to the limits. Revenge consumed him and he died. Later, the Robert Walton, the guy who was on the ship who found Victor Frankenstein, he saw, and then he saw one more creature. He was leaning over the body, and that guy thought that maybe the Walton thought that he was attacking him, but then he saw that Victor was already dead, and that creature, he was crying. And he admitted the revenge hadn't brought him peace, it only brought him more grief. The whole world called him a monster, and eventually he became. This story doesn't have a happy ending. In the end, the creature, he walks away and he promises that he will die and he won't do this thing again. Promises that he will kill himself. There was nothing, so they gained nothing. The only thing it happened was they destroyed life, and they only destroyed life. There was no victory and nothing to gain. So the question is, who was the real monster? The man who abandoned his own creature, his own creation, or the creature who, blinded by revenge, took everyone with him? That's all for today. Have a nice day. Bye.